Investors across the globe were waking up to a storm of excitement. Social media feeds were flooded with messages, posts, and videos discussing the latest developments in the Iraqi Dinar RV plan. What had once been considered a long-awaited dream for a niche group of currency enthusiasts was now gaining mainstream attention. People who had quietly held onto their dinars for years were suddenly glued to their screens, refreshing news sites and financial updates every few minutes, hoping to catch even the smallest hint of confirmation. The excitement was palpable, almost electric, as everyone speculated on what the next steps would be. Forums and chat groups were overflowing with predictions and analyses. Some members claimed insider knowledge, posting messages that hinted at major breakthroughs, while others cautiously reminded everyone that speculation often outpaces reality. Still, there was no denying the buzz. The entire financial community seemed to be holding its breath. Reports began emerging from multiple sources, each echoing a similar message. Progress was happening, and it was happening fast. Unlike previous announcements that had dragged on for months with little concrete result, this time the updates were different. There were mentions of coordinated meetings between international banks, government officials, and private investors, all pointing toward a synchronized push to advance the RV process. The language used in these reports was unmistakably optimistic, signaling to holders that something tangible was underway. The excitement wasn't just about money. It was about opportunity, timing, and being part of a historic moment. Long-time holders who had spent years defending their positions against skeptics felt vindicated. Now, all their patience and faith seemed to be rewarded with undeniable momentum. As the news spread, even casual investors and onlookers who had never considered the dinar seriously before began paying attention. Financial analysts on YouTube and news channels jumped on the topic, dissecting every report, every official statement, and every rumor. Graphs, charts, and projections began appearing everywhere, showing potential outcomes for the dinar's value once the RV plan progressed further. The sense of urgency in the community intensified. Social media posts with phrases like "Are you ready?" and "biggest move in years" went viral, creating an almost contagious excitement. People began sharing screenshots of account balances, personal stories of their investments, and even strategies for how to handle the upcoming changes. There was a collective feeling of, if this is real, we are about to witness something monumental. For those who had been tracking the dinar for years, this wasn't just news, it was validation. They remembered previous times when hopes had soared only to crash under delays or skepticism, but this wave felt different. Experts mentioned specific milestones that had been achieved, which were often mentioned in hushed tones within financial circles but rarely confirmed publicly. These milestones suggested a level of coordination and readiness that hadn't existed before. People who had been hesitant to speak out or to advise friends and family about the dinar were now openly discussing their strategies. There was a sense that no one wanted to miss out on what could be a once-in-a-lifetime financial moment. This wasn't just speculation anymore. It felt real. The sense of anticipation spilled over into personal interactions as well. Messages pinged across devices, phone calls increased, and friends who had never spoken about currency investments were now discussing numbers, timelines, and projections. The news created a social phenomenon in itself. Coffee shops, workplaces, and online communities were buzzing with conversations about how soon the RV could happen, what impact it might have on global currency markets, and how individual holders could prepare. People were not only excited about potential financial gain, they were emotionally invested in the unfolding story, feeling like witnesses to history in the making. Alongside the excitement, there was also a degree of nervous energy. Rumors and speculation had a way of spreading faster than verified information, and this created both hype and anxiety. Some people feared missing out, while others questioned whether the reports could be fully trusted. Nevertheless, even skeptics admitted that the speed of progress and the nature of the announcements indicated real movement. Analysts pointed out that the coordination between international financial bodies and local Iraqi authorities was unprecedented. suggesting a level of preparation and seriousness that could not easily be ignored. Discussions turned to logistics, potential exchange mechanisms, and how the public would gain access to information when the plan reached critical phases. Every bit of new information, no matter how minor, became a hot topic. In households across Iraq and among the diaspora, the news caused excitement to mix with hope. Families who had held dinar investments for decades discussed the possibilities and dreamed of new opportunities. People began considering how they could use the potential gains not just for themselves, but for their communities. Conversations moved beyond mere financial speculation. They became about planning futures, investing wisely, and understanding the broader implications for the economy. The narrative shifted from waiting and hoping to preparation and engagement. People were no longer passive. They were participants in a story that was rapidly unfolding around them. Amid all the chatter, a central theme emerged. This was not just a financial update. It was a signal of change. Even casual observers recognized that if the RV plan moved forward as suggested, it could have implications beyond personal wealth. Economists began speculating about currency stability, investment influx, and international market reactions. Social media influencers and YouTube channels jumped on the topic, analyzing past trends, breaking down current developments, and predicting next steps. The online ecosystem created an echo chamber of excitement, information, and debate, further fueling the sense that something major was imminent. The day continued with news updates streaming in continuously. Each update, whether minor or major, triggered waves of reactions. People shared their thoughts, predictions, and strategies online at lightning speed. It became clear that this moment had captured the attention of not just dinar holders but a global audience, all eager to see how the situation would unfold. For investors, it was a roller coaster of anticipation, analysis, and excitement, each new piece of information adding fuel to the fire. People who had once doubted the dinar's potential now found themselves actively engaged, discussing, debating, and planning in ways that they had never imagined. The feeling of being part of a historic financial movement gave the news an almost electric energy, making it impossible to ignore. By the end of the day, one thing was certain: the Iraqi Dinar RV plan was no longer a distant dream or speculative hope. The reports, the insider whispers, and the official hints had combined to create an atmosphere of urgency, excitement, and anticipation. Investors, analysts, and ordinary people alike were now fully aware that this was a pivotal moment. The dinar was moving, the plan was advancing, and the world was watching closely. The energy was unstoppable, the speculation unrelenting, and the hope palpable. Everyone knew that the coming days could bring the kind of monumental news they had been waiting for their entire lives. The momentum from the initial updates carried over into a wave of unprecedented excitement as more insider reports started to surface. Observers and investors began to notice that the speed of progress in the Iraqi Dinar RV plan was unlike anything seen before. Unlike past cycles, where months of waiting led to little tangible change, this time everything seemed to be accelerating simultaneously. Details emerged suggesting that multiple financial institutions, both domestic and international, were coordinating in ways that pointed to serious commitment. The chatter among currency experts and analysts indicated that bureaucratic delays had been streamlined and that international banking protocols were being synchronized for an imminent move. Conversations in online forums and private groups were filled with words like alignment, strategic planning, and historic coordination. People who had once been skeptics were now watching closely, realizing that this might actually be happening faster than they ever anticipated. The speed at which the news circulated only fueled speculation further. While official statements were scarce, the unofficial signals were undeniable. Government bodies and financial authorities in Iraq appeared to be pushing toward execution stages that had previously seemed distant or uncertain. Analysts began poring over every official announcement, memo, and report, trying to discern patterns that could predict the timing of the next phase. Charts showing projected currency value gains were shared across social media, each one accompanied by a flurry of commentary and debate. Investors discussed possible scenarios in long threads, weighing risks against the opportunity for a sudden and significant increase in the value of their holdings. The excitement was palpable, but so was the tension. Everyone wanted to be ready for what could be a monumental shift in the currency landscape. In financial groups, speculation was running high about exactly what these developments meant for dinar holders. Some suggested that the coordinated effort between international banks and the Iraqi government indicated that logistical challenges had been addressed and that distribution plans were in place. Others theorized that once the RV went live, it would be executed in a staged rollout to prevent market chaos. The atmosphere was a mixture of hope, excitement, and careful strategizing. Experienced investors began planning their next moves, while newer holders eagerly absorbed advice and information from more seasoned participants. The conversations moved quickly from general news into detailed planning, as people tried to calculate the optimal timing and approach for their holdings. Meanwhile, global attention began to shift toward Iraq in ways it hadn't before. Financial analysts in other countries noted the potential ripple effects that a dinar revaluation could have on foreign exchange markets and international trade. Economists debated the timing, the value implications, and the broader consequences for emerging economies. News outlets began to cover the story more frequently, amplifying awareness and reaching audiences far beyond the traditional investor community. Even casual observers began to understand the magnitude of what was happening. The sense that a historic moment was unfolding gave the story a weight that extended beyond currency speculation. It had become a topic of global interest. As the day progressed, the excitement transitioned into a sense of urgency. Holders of the dinar were increasingly aware that the opportunity might require prompt action once official confirmation arrived. Private messaging apps and forums were flooded with strategic discussions: when to liquidate, how to protect gains, and what risks to consider. People compared notes about previous RV cycles and shared lessons learned from past experiences. Advice was exchanged on everything from timing to potential pitfalls, as the community collectively prepared for what could be the largest financial event in recent years. It wasn't just about speculation anymore. It had become a movement of careful planning, networking, and readiness. The insider reports suggested that major milestones had been reached, and the sense of inevitability grew with each passing hour. Financial insiders hinted that the groundwork for the revaluation had been completed in a series of coordinated steps, all pointing to a clear path forward. Analysts began to interpret this as a sign that the RV was not only possible but likely in the near future. Social media buzzed with phrases like "next phase ready" and "final preparations underway." Each new leak or hint sparked waves of reactions, as investors tried to interpret the timing and magnitude of the upcoming changes. The discussions were intense yet respectful, as people recognized that this was a significant moment requiring both patience and attentiveness. The excitement wasn't limited to seasoned investors. Families, small business owners, and even casual observers who had been quietly monitoring the dinar were now actively engaged in discussions about its future. Questions about accessibility, transaction methods, and potential financial impact were common. People imagined how their lives might change if the RV occurred, considering everything from personal savings to business investments. Stories of hope and anticipation spread widely, fueling a collective belief that something extraordinary was unfolding. The narrative shifted from speculation about numbers to imagining real-world consequences: the chance to pay off debts, invest in opportunities, or secure financial stability for loved ones. The human element of the story, the dreams, the planning, and the excitement, made it resonate far beyond financial circles. Analysts and experts weighed in with their own insights, further heightening the anticipation. Some predicted a phased rollout to manage market response, while others suggested that the coordination between Iraq and international banks was a signal that a major announcement could happen sooner than expected. These professional opinions added credibility to the reports circulating online, making even the more skeptical holders reconsider their outlook. People began monitoring official channels more closely, watching for every subtle sign, statement, or press release. The anticipation became almost tangible as communities worldwide discussed what the next days or weeks might bring. Each minor update, even if ambiguous, sparked new waves of conversation, analysis, and planning. The narrative of progress was reinforced by visible changes in financial systems and communication channels. Some investors noted that banking operations in Iraq and abroad seemed unusually synchronized, hinting that preparations were not just theoretical but practical. Financial service providers began issuing statements that, while cautious, indicated readiness for upcoming changes. Even the smallest confirmations were celebrated as proof that the long-awaited revaluation was moving from concept to execution. The excitement was amplified because, after years of waiting, there was now evidence that the plan was no longer just a discussion. It was happening in real time. The sense of being part of a historic moment, witnessing major developments firsthand, created an energy that was almost impossible to contain. As speculation grew, so did the global attention. International media began covering the story more prominently, increasing exposure and awareness. Analysts on financial networks debated the implications, comparing the current momentum to previous cycles and analyzing possible outcomes. Online platforms became hubs of discussion, with thousands of people engaging in real-time commentary. Financial influencers produced videos, articles, and posts, breaking down the latest updates, interpreting hints, and advising their audiences on what to expect. The excitement became self-reinforcing. The more people talked about the RV, the faster news spread, and the more intense the anticipation became. It was a cycle of speculation, analysis, and engagement that had transformed a once niche topic into a global phenomenon. By the end of the day, one thing was clear. The Iraqi Dinar RV plan was moving faster than anyone had expected. The progress wasn't just incremental, it was rapid, coordinated, and undeniable. Holders were no longer waiting passively, they were actively preparing, planning, and anticipating. The combination of insider hints, media attention, and social conversation created a powerful momentum that suggested the RV could happen sooner than anyone had dared hope. The world was watching, investors were poised, and the stage was set for what could be a historic financial event. The excitement, energy, and anticipation had reached a fever pitch, signaling that the next phase of the Iraqi Dinar RV plan was imminent and that those who had been waiting for years might finally witness the breakthrough they had long hoped for. The moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. After weeks of speculation, anticipation, and rapid progress reports, the official announcement regarding the Iraqi Dinar RV plan was made public. News outlets, financial networks, and social media channels erupted simultaneously, flooding the internet with updates, analysis, and reactions from investors across the globe. The atmosphere was electric, as people who had been holding their dinars for years felt an overwhelming sense of validation. The years of patience, research, and quiet hope had culminated in this historic event, and the world was watching closely as the implications began to unfold. Every conversation, every post, and every video shared carried the excitement of what many considered a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Initial reports from official sources confirmed that major milestones had been successfully reached. While the announcement was carefully worded to manage expectations, the underlying message was clear. The RV plan had entered an advanced stage, and practical steps toward execution were underway. Investors immediately began analyzing the information, trying to understand what this meant for their holdings and how quickly they could expect changes. Social media platforms were filled with posts showing screenshots of financial accounts, discussions about strategy, and expressions of excitement that ranged from cautious optimism to sheer exhilaration. People who had followed the dinar for decades felt a surge of pride, finally seeing tangible progress after years of uncertainty. The announcement was more than a financial update, it was confirmation that a historic shift was occurring. The reactions were global. Investors from North America, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East shared their thoughts and strategies, turning the announcement into a worldwide event. Analysts and experts appeared on television and online streams, breaking down the announcement point by point. They discussed what it meant for the value of the dinar, the timing of potential exchanges, and the impact on international financial markets. Each new insight added to the excitement as holders tried to anticipate the next steps. Meanwhile, online forums were flooded with rapid-fire discussions, advice sharing, and interpretations of the official language used in the announcement. The combination of official confirmation and insider hints created a sense of inevitability. The RV was no longer a question of if, but of when and how much. For many dinar holders, the announcement triggered a mix of emotions. Relief, excitement, and a renewed sense of purpose swept through communities that had been waiting for this moment for years. People reflected on the patience required to reach this point, the years spent holding their currency while facing skepticism from friends, family, and even financial advisors. Stories of perseverance, strategy, and hope began circulating widely, adding a deeply human dimension to what was otherwise a financial event. The announcement became more than numbers and policy. It represented the culmination of dreams and dedication for thousands of individuals who had believed in the dinar even when others had doubted. The emotional resonance was as significant as the financial potential, binding communities together through shared anticipation and hope. As the details of the announcement continued to emerge, discussions turned toward logistics. Experts and analysts explored how exchanges might be conducted, what protocols would be implemented, and how investors could best position themselves to benefit. The complexity of the process was widely acknowledged, but the consensus was that the groundwork had been meticulously prepared. Banking systems, regulatory frameworks, and international coordination appeared to be in place, signaling that the RV could proceed in an orderly manner. Investors began reviewing their strategies, making notes, and preparing for a range of possible outcomes. Conversations about timing, risk management, and potential gains dominated forums, social media platforms, and private groups. The announcement had not only confirmed progress, it had catalyzed action and planning on a global scale. Meanwhile, media coverage amplified the event exponentially. Television networks, financial news channels, and online platforms carried the announcement with live analysis, interviews with experts, and historical context about the dinar. Analysts compared the current situation with previous currency revaluations, highlighting the unique factors that made this moment distinct. The coverage reinforced the excitement and legitimacy of the announcement, drawing in casual observers who had previously only tangentially followed the dinar. The narrative shifted from niche speculation to mainstream relevance, capturing the attention of a broader audience eager to understand the potential implications. Every new report added layers to the story, creating a sense of momentum that was nearly unstoppable. For holders of the dinar, the announcement triggered immediate action. People began double-checking accounts, confirming holdings, and ensuring that all necessary documentation was in order. The community shifted into a state of preparedness, as individuals and groups discussed the optimal ways to navigate the upcoming changes. Strategies were shared, potential pitfalls were analyzed, and contingency plans were drafted. The anticipation was palpable. Investors wanted to be ready for the first signs of implementation. Even small updates or clarifications from financial authorities were dissected and debated, as everyone tried to gauge how quickly the RV might progress and what steps they needed to take. The sense of urgency was matched by careful planning, combining excitement with strategic foresight. Beyond the immediate financial implications, the announcement sparked discussions about the broader impact on the Iraqi economy and international trade. Economists and analysts explored how increased investor confidence could stimulate economic growth, enhance financial stability, and attract foreign investment. Discussions also included the potential effects on currency markets, regional economies, and global trade patterns. For many holders, this was about more than personal gain. It was about witnessing a transformation that could have lasting positive consequences for Iraq and the surrounding region. The combination of financial opportunity and broader economic impact made the announcement feel historic on multiple levels. It was a moment that transcended individual holdings, tying personal anticipation to a larger story of progress and development. As the day progressed, excitement and activity reached a fever pitch. Online communities were virtually humming with energy, and social media was flooded with updates, tips, and reactions. Videos explaining the announcement went viral, capturing the attention of even more viewers. Influencers, analysts, and enthusiasts created content that broke down every detail, ensuring that no investor was left uninformed. The rapid dissemination of information created an ecosystem where excitement and preparation fed off each other, amplifying engagement exponentially. People shared not only strategies but also emotional responses, hope, relief, excitement, and a sense of being part of a historic moment. The announcement had turned a long-standing speculative dream into a tangible reality, and everyone wanted to be part of it. By the evening, the significance of the announcement was universally acknowledged. The RV plan had advanced to a stage that few had dared to imagine months earlier. For Dinar holders, the announcement represented both opportunity and responsibility, the chance to act wisely, capitalize on progress, and participate in a momentous financial shift. The global attention, the meticulous preparation, and the coordination among authorities all pointed to one undeniable truth. The Iraqi Dinar RV was no longer a distant hope. It was unfolding in real time. Investors and observers alike were on high alert, ready to take the next steps as soon as the implementation phase began. The excitement, anticipation, and historical importance of the event created a powerful narrative that would be remembered for years to come. The announcement concluded the period of waiting and speculation and launched the Dinar community into a period of informed action. People were analyzing, discussing, and strategizing with an intensity that reflected the significance of the moment. Long-time holders felt vindicated, newcomers felt inspired, and analysts felt validated in their interpretations of the unfolding events. The sense of history in the making was tangible, creating a shared experience that connected people around the world. The Iraqi Dinar RV plan had moved from the realm of speculation into a stage of concrete, observable progress. The world was watching, investors were ready, and the story of the dinar had reached a critical turning point, one that promised to reshape financial landscapes and capture the imagination of those who had waited patiently for this extraordinary moment.